What is the bearing in degrees magnetic from RGKR, which is a flashing 2+1 red every 6 seconds. It's at Kimberly Reef, to Orient Point. So the first thing we have to do is we just have to orient ourselves, right? No pun intended. So Orient Point, where is Orient Point? It's the tip of Long Island on the North Fork. You know, and so it says right here, this is Orient Point. And we're talking about we're going to, and this is what I usually think about where we're going to, and I work my way back from where I'm going to. So this says right here, it's the flashing 5-second horn, 64 feet. So that is where we're going to. So we want to know what our course in degrees magnetic from Kimberly Reef. So where's Kimberly Reef? So if we don't know where Kimberly Reef is, if we have no idea, there's a couple of things we can do. First thing we can do is we can go back to the reference book for the charts, and all of these things are listed. And so that's a very easy way to go down and kind of read through, you know, Long Island Sound to figure out where, you know, where it is, right? You could do a Google search. You could say, you know, hey, where's Kimberly Reef? The other thing you notice too is that big things have bigger letters, right? So Long Island Sound is in very big letters. Then you have 6 Mile Reef, which is in slightly smaller letters. Long Sand Shoal, which is bigger than 6 Mile Reef, bigger letters than this. And so if I'm trying to find something and I don't know where it is, I kind of try and relax my eyes and look over the chart and just see what pops up. I happen to know where Kimberly Reef is because I've done, you know, so many distance races and things of that nature. And Kimberly Reef is just on the eastern shore of Faulkner Island, right? So there's this area here, and Kimberly Reef's actually pretty deep. You know, for most people, it's something that's really not a concern. It's 12 feet here at low tide. But for big commercial stuff that draws 20, 30 feet that needs to stay out in the middle of the sound, it's certainly a concern. But for a sailboat race, you know, I've had races that have ended up back here on the north side of Faulkner Island because you're trying to play the thermals, you know, maybe late at night that are coming off the shore. So anyway, so we're trying to figure out from here to here what our magnetic course is. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do it using these parallel rulers, okay? Now the way these work is you hold on one side and you move the other side. So you can, like, you know, you can walk these around like this, put a little pressure on one, right? They also, if you extend them out all the way, also work very nicely to use an extended ruler. Now when you do this, you'll notice you can use this part as a ruler, but you can also use the inside part, which is more square, as a ruler. So if I've got something long that I have to measure, right? You know, I'll put one side on it there, and I'll put the other side on it there. And one of the things that you can do, which you probably can't tell on the camera, is this glass. When you get the glass over something, it changes the look of it a little bit. And so what I'll do is I will take this and I'll draw part of a line here and part of a line there. I can move either one of these, so I'll move this one and I'll draw part of the line here in the center and part of the line here. And then what I'll do, so I've got this, you know, line that's been drawn, but maybe I'll go back and just so the line is consistent, you know, I'll make it like this, right? There we go. Now we've got a line all the way across there. So there's basically 2 ways we can measure this. And if you want to make some notes, you could make some notes on this line, you know, any place you want. You know, you wouldn't want to do it like right next to another marker, but you could say something, you know, like, you know, RGKR to Orient Point, right? That way you know if you look back at it what this line is, because these charts all have a lot of lines on them. They've got not only the latitude and longitude lines, which are the square ones, but they also have the old Loran sea lines, which are either the blue or the red lines that kind of go at an angle. So under the old Loran system, which is no longer functioning. I actually think the newest charts don't have Loran lines on them anymore. That may not be true, but at some point I know they're going to do away with Loran lines, but where this is a practice chart, it still has it. So there's two ways that we can figure out what the magnetic course is here. So one way we could do it is we could do it by using our parallel rulers. Okay, and remember I said that we can use these things to like walk, right? So you'd put this, you know, right on the line that we've drawn, make sure it's consistent, right? And then you want to hold the one that's right on the line, and move the other one up next to it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this one up until it's right in the middle of the compass rose that's on the map, so it's right in the middle of the X. And then what I might even do is I might put a couple of marks here, and I might put a couple of marks here. Okay? So what this looks like to me is it looks like it is a true bearing of 99, and it is a 90, 100, 110 of 114 of magnetic. Right? And just remember, this practice test here says that there's a variation of 15 degrees and 15 minutes west in 1990. So, you know, what we're gonna do is we'll just, you know, we'll use whatever the variation is on this. We're not going to correct for it, but if we wanted to correct for it, you know, this says there's an annual increase of 3 minutes per year. So you would actually, for every year, you'd have to add, you know, 3 minutes to this variation so that you'd get to whatever the current variation is. The current chart is 2015, so you'll know what the variation is from that. And so the question asks, what is the bearing in degrees magnetic? So the right answer for the bearing in degrees magnetic is 114 degrees magnetic. So if you had if you wanted to go from here, from Kimberly Reef to Orient Point in a boat that had no variation in its compass, no deviation in its compass, you'd steer 114 and it would get you there. Let me show you another way to find the heading as well. So you have these protractor charts here, which I really like these things because they make things quick and easy. It's not the way I first learned to navigate, so I tend to go back to the parallel rulers a lot. But here's the way these work, right? So you've got again, you've got this edge, put the edge right along it. And you can slide it up and back a little bit if you want to, like this, along the line, because your goal, it has all these crosshairs here, so your goal is to get one of those crosshairs, one of these lines, directly over, right? And then you can see this wheel spins. So you want to get it directly over one of the lat long lines, and you can do it either way, right? You can do it on a latitude line or a longitude line. So we're doing it on this up and down longitude line here, which you go to the bottom of the map is 72 degrees and 30. Now, what it has then, it has here in the center, it says what, if zero variation, what the heading is, which corresponds to true. So that goes to 99, and then we've got 15 degrees of variation, right? So you go up 15 degrees and that brings you over here. So 10, 15, 20, you can see these marks. That brings you exactly to 114. So there's two ways to get the heading of 114 from this exercise. Now let's go to the next question, which is how many nautical miles is it from RGKR, flashing 2+1 red, which is Kimberly Reef, to the same thing at Orient Point. So the line that we just drew, we're going to measure that and see how long it is in nautical miles. So, two ways to do it. Here's an easy way to do this, right? If you've got a protractor that has the mileage along the side, again, we're on 1 to 80,000 scale. You want to confirm that, so I will go and take, you know, 1 nautical mile, and I'll put it either up against, you know, to confirm it's 1 minute of 1 degree of latitude, or I'll take it up to the key and make sure that, yep, that is indeed 1. So we've got 15 is how long this is. So I'll go from Kimberly Reef along the line. I'll take my pencil here. I'll just make a little mark and say, okay, that's 15. And I'll do it just because I don't have room off the end of the table. So I'll use 10, and I'll go along the line again. So from 10 to 13.5. So that's 3.5. So 15 and 3.5, 18.5 nautical miles is how far it is from Kimberly Reef to Orient Point. So this is the old school way of doing it before they had these fancy protractors. Again, this is the way I learned. So what I do when I've got a long line is I take some distance, known distance, and what you could do is if you had a divider that stretched that far, you know, you could we don't have one that stretches that far. So I'm going to set this divider right here. I'm going to set it to 5 nautical miles. Now there's 2 ways I could do it, right? I could go over to one of the charts that says, okay, this is 5 nautical miles because it's got the key. So I may do that to start, but I may actually come back and check it on a latitude. So go back, so I'm going in between the 41, I guess this is maybe just a little off camera, but the 41 degrees 5 minutes and 41 degrees 10 minutes, and that's 5, and I've got set to 5 nautical miles. So the distance between those 2 points is 5 nautical miles. So what I can do is I put this exactly on the point that we're starting at, Kimberly Reef, and I take the pointer, and what you want to be careful of, there's a couple of different pointers. This one doesn't have a little wheel in between it. I like the ones that have a little wheel because it is less, you know, it's much more difficult to accidentally move the span of the divider. But I like these because they're easier to operate with one hand and a little bit quicker to operate. So either one's good. You'll have a chance probably to work with both of them. So then what you do is you walk down the course. It's called walking down the course. So I've got, starting here, Kimberly Reef, so that's 5 miles. I take, keeping this point in place, and spin it, and I go right to the line again. So that's another 5. So we've now gone 10 miles. So we've gone 15. So that's another 5. Now our 5 is too long. We're like, oh, that's too long. So from this last point, we close the divider to the length that we went to. We close the divider to the length that we went to, and then we can go over here and measure on the side, and guess what? That's 3.5. So 15 plus 3.5, 18.5 miles. So Kimberly Reef to Orient Point is 18.5 miles.